welcome to another episode of FM Corner. I'm Danny Koontz, your host. Today, a person who's been a friend of mine I've worked with for a really long time, Richard Flaherty. Richard is the CEO for Wagamama Restaurants. Been in the restaurant industry in different types of jobs for a really, really long time. I want to talk a little bit about his story and what's going on with his company and some things like that. So I think it'll be a great episode. Richard, doing all right, my friend?
Doing all right, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Let's start.
I never thought I'd get out of the green room, though, Danny. I thought you'd always keep me in the green room and never actually bring me on. But
skip and go to the next guy. There you go. Like the draft. Hey, talk a little bit about your career, kind of where you started and what all you've done to kind of where you are today, leading a company.
Yeah. So, many years ago, and here I'm going to date myself, graduating from Auburn in the mid-90s, I was working for Ruby Tuesday, right? Graduated with no intentions of going into the restaurant business, lucked into working, when we were able to work together with Ruby's back in the days when growing 100 restaurants a year, I think at that time, or somewhere close. And I fell in love with it, right? The energy, the action, the activity, and certainly the opportunity that it could provide, and ultimately did, thanks, for me. So listen, from there, I was with Ruby's for almost 20 years, 18 years, I think. Was able to get lots of good job rounding from, operations to HR to franchising, to building restaurants, to managing large regions, et cetera. And so, through that job rounding and those opportunities, once I left, there were lots of companies out there looking for those that had the experience in how to scale companies, how to grow, how to prioritize. And so from that, I went and worked for a few independents, young, small, struggling, which really helped, kind of round out, I'm still trying to round this out, but, my expertise, if you will, or style, working with smaller companies, private equity backed, in growth mode, working with great chefs and great talent. There's so much learning to be had there, right? And so I had the big company experience to go and have small company experience, which then led me into some opportunities of partnering with some talented individuals to lead what I would call startup companies through growth and ultimately transactions, which then provided opportunity for myself and a few partners to go out and look for opportunities, decide on some. We purchased Wagamama as a joint venture back in 2020. I think we closed on the deal 3 weeks before the pandemic. Boy, if I had a crystal ball then. That provided in itself lots of good opportunity, believe it or not. And, we were able to fine tune the business, get some growth under our belts. Recently did a transaction with the larger company out of the UK. And here we sit today, and I'm the U.S. business leader running the business here in the U.S.
Right, it's a great story, great career, lots of different stuff. Kind of, what's the best part of your job, Richard, and what's the hardest part?
Listen, best part, for me is the people side of the business. So what I mean by that is, the developing the talent. It was done for me early in my career, and it ingrained that into me. I love to see young aspirational talent developed, moved to the next level, mentored, challenged, fail, right, and then pick back up and develop some more. So for me, that is certainly the best part of the job. But what I will also say is, at my core, and I didn't know this coming out of college, but at my core, I love to host experiences, right? I love to, whether it's have people come into my home or come into our restaurants, I love to be there to facilitate a great experience, right? And so, luckily, that is something that I truly enjoy.
That's great. How did your early years, say Ruby Tuesday or in that earlier time, how did that help prepare you for the job you have now?
Yeah. So first off, I lucked into this. But Ruby's back in those days, I very high value company, right? And that it valued talent, it valued developing talent. And so in that regard, right, it's kind of informed me on what I think is important, right? And certainly is for me now with, all the talent we have in our business, how to keep them moving forward and doing well and performing for the teams and the business in the field. The other was, I would say work ethic and accountability. Listen, Danny, in those years, in those days, we worked hard, right? And it was expected that we work hard. And it was expected that, we were accountable to those we led, the businesses we led, and we were expected to have, success or drive results. And so, I still have that work ethic. I still have that mentality today. I may look at the corporate P&L, but I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I still dug into the individual P&Ls and performance of the restaurant to try and peel back the onion to see what are we doing well, what do we need to do better, et cetera. In the last part, as I was lucky enough to grow and move through the organization, it was to learn how to compartmentalize, all of the challenges that exist, in our business today, right? Because, I deal with challenges, with finance challenges, with HR challenges, with operations challenges. And so, I learned through watching others and paying attention how to compartmentalize those challenges and those issues and how to prioritize and then, hopefully communicate that well to the team and lead the team down a path what will ultimately be successful.
I think, as you mentioned, hard work and so on. One of the lessons I learned early on from Ruby Tuesday, we worked in a no excuse world.
Yep.
That's what we did. Well, I don't care. Figure it out. Let's go. And worked hard, had a ton of fun doing it. Hard and fun, sometimes those don't seem to go together. But I worked really hard, but I had the time of a lifetime doing it,
Yep.
and meeting the people and the opportunities with all the people that you worked side by side with, was really special. But we worked in a no excuse world. That's what it was. Get it done. Figure it out.
Get it. And one of the things I believe and I say to our teams today is, being a young growth company that we are right now, success comes from the struggle, right? Success comes from the learning, the struggle, the being in the trenches. And I remember, leaving Ruby's when I did and going to work for a small, talented restaurateur out of Florida who was growing his company, had multiple concepts. And I specifically remember being charged with help grow or scale that business. And we had a new restaurant concept opening and I needed training material. Well, in my old life, I'd have walked to a training building and partnered with, 100 people on building training material, and I found myself, I found myself going, all right, we need training material. I looked around and went, well, I guess I better start writing it now.
Yeah. There's nobody, it's you.
Right. And while that's hard, you look back and you go, it was also that was also fun. Right. So.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me what you look for in a vendor partner. I'm on the service side of the business now, and which is opposite of being a facility manager. But what do you look for? What's important to you, Richard, with people that you're doing business with?
Listen, there's one thing, right? Do what you say you're going to do, right? Just do what you say you're going to do. And listen, of course, I want integrity. Of course, I want accountability to do a job well done. But that comes with me hiring the right person who says they're going to do something and then follows through with it all the way to the end. And we've had some challenges with that. And it's not specific to any one individual or any one vendor, but I think the issues we've dealt with certainly during COVID and post-COVID, with whether it's HR challenges or hiring challenges or supply chain challenges that we've had, getting people to do what they say they're going to do has been an issue, right? It's gotten better,
Sure,
but that's what I look for.
I think, for people that do that, that's one of the main things that helps build trust. When you know that you can depend on somebody, and I have a saying that I've learned from someone else, but I use it all the time. And when I speak to people in teams and things like that, is under promise and over deliver.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've heard you say it 100 times.
I have. And if you ask me for help on a Monday and I tell you and I'll say, Richard, I'll be back to you by Thursday. Okay, I'm going to have it done by Thursday. If you trust me and my word has been good, when you hang the phone up on Monday, you're not worried about it anymore till Thursday.
That's right.
And if I tell you Thursday, but I call you Wednesday afternoon and give you the answer, I'm even better.
Mm-hmm.
And Wednesday could have been my deadline all along. But I have done more than what I told you. And I didn't get caught in you saying, well, can you have it to me Tuesday? Okay. And then I can't.
Right.
Then I lose. And that's what happens to people. They give you the answer that to satisfy you because they think that's what you want. Now, what you really want is the truth.
Right.
Tell me the truth and then beat it. And that's what gets a lot of people in trouble. They'll say, sure, I'll do that. And they'll hang the phone up and go, how am I going to do that? Because there's no chance. There's no way. And you're losing trust every single time that you do that.
And I know I certainly, I think all of us fall into that to some degree because you want to please, right? You want to deliver. You want to do whatever it is that person you either report to or respect is asking you to do. And it takes discipline, to be able to deliver the bad news, right? So one of the things I say to my team is, yes, I want you to give me the good news, but I want you to give me the bad news faster, right? Share bad news fast.
Sure, absolutely.
Well,
and again, I'm agree with you. I have told people I have answered kind of according to what they want and hung the phone up and went, ooh.
Right.
But I also know that one of my few strengths in life is I scramble. Like when we play golf, I'm a scrambler. It doesn't look pretty, but it's the number that goes on the card is what matters at the end of it, And I knew that, okay, I'm going to hang the phone up and I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I feel very confident I'm going to figure it out in the time frame that it needs to be done. You got to be good at that. Otherwise, you can't. So.
Yeah. Yep.
Kind of what's 3 things, Richard, that you want every member of your team to have? Traits, skills, I don't care. What do you
Yeah. So, in our business, the first is always the case, right? Is I need people that have a servant's heart, right? I want those that, naturally have that hospitality mentality, whether it's taking care of internal teams or external, it is our business, right? So having a servant's heart for me is always number one. Number 2 is work ethic, which I would pair with resilience, right? I mean, let's get the job done. Let's get it done well. But we've picked a hard business, right? Weekends, holidays, that's what we've chosen. Late nights, early mornings. And so around that, you do need folks that have a bit of resilience, a hard edge to them, right? Where that, when things do hit the fan, you've got the right folks in the foxhole around you, which first and foremost includes me, right? I got to be in the foxhole first.
Sure.
And then the last, and this is really for the corporate team, is grace and empathy. Know who ultimately we work for, right? And we work for those in the field that are there day and night, holidays, etc. Our job is to facilitate delivering to them what they need to ensure that they can take care of the guests that are coming in every day, which ultimately takes care of everyone else, right? So, those three things, we talk about all the time.
Outstanding. How important is trust for you, for the people you deal with?
It's very, I find that, look, we spend more time working with individuals, whether it's internal teams or in some cases vendors, than we do with our own families, right? And so liking that person, trusting that person, wanting to work with that person, and trust is obviously the most important, is critical, right? And so, I also find that if I trust a vendor and they're willing and they make a mistake, but they own the mistake, and or we hit a bump in the road, I'm also willing to stick with that vendor, right? Because mistakes happen. I had one recently who messed up, right? And they made a mistake, but they called me and said, look, here's a mistake I made. I own it. You can fire me if you want. I apologize and I'll fix it. And I went, why would I want to fire you? You know what mistake you made. Can you fix it? Yes. All right, let's fix it. Right. And so because I trust them, there wasn't that immediate need to replace them. We all make mistakes, right? How do we fix it? Of course, they're expected to share in whatever some of that burden from that mistake is.
Absolutely.
But it's part of the deal.
Absolutely. And I think that's great. And sometimes people, I know tons of facility people out there, and there are some, hopefully not a lot, but there are some. When a vendor makes a mistake, okay, you're gone.
Yeah.
Well, in a year or two, you're not going to have anybody left. And you're going to fire everybody, I mean, and I have said this to a restaurant person before. I'm like, listen, you're going to make a bad meal today for one of your customers. You will. But you want them to come back because you're going to do everything you can to rally and so on and so forth. If that same attitude happened with your restaurant, you wouldn't have any customers.
Right.
Because everybody does. It's that piece. And I told vendors at Ruby Tuesday, there were very few non-negotiables in dealing with me. You can holler, you can yell, you can scream, you can do anything like that you want. I don't care. Love a fight. However, when something bad happens, I better be the first person that knows about it. I don't care what it is. I want to be the first person, because there is a big difference in you, Richard, calling me going, Danny, do you know about this little fire on the roof? Yeah, I do, Richard. I know 10 minutes ago. You go, okay, you on it? Yeah, I'm on it. And you hang up. As opposed to you calling me, say, do you know about the fire? And I go, what fire?
Right.
It's a whole different mentality in the conversation, And so that was one of my non-negotiables is one, don't lie to me. Don't ever lie to me. And then the second one being, I want to be the first person to know, because I have to show strength and confidence to whoever it is out there in the field that, okay, I got it. It's taken care of. So it's very important.
Yeah.
Who were your mentors, Richard?
Now, I do have a few, and I also think that changes over time. Sure. Right.
Sure.
Look, first and foremost for me, my grandfather was my mentor, right? Very successful, very trusting, the way he treated others, the way he took care of his family, the way he was responsible, high integrity, has certainly informed at least what I aspire to be. Whether I achieve it all the time or not is different. Also the best man at my wedding, right? So that should tell you something.
Sure.
And I do think you have lots at almost every level of your career. So I could go back, Danny, and say, look, as a young manager in the restaurant business, this GM or this manager, I remember fondly because they helped me, guide me, mentor me, how they treated people, how they treated guests. There's a lot to learn there. I would also say, I've got some folks that I've worked with or worked with in the past, certainly now acquaintances that are very successful. One that comes to mind for me is, her very well. Kimberly Grant is somebody that I've worked with for years, guided me, kept me from walking off a cliff once or twice. Certainly has always been a step ahead of me. Has been very successful in her career. Therefore, and always willing to take my call when I had a question, right? Or I was faced with something I hadn't been faced for as a new CEO or a new COO or a new VP, whatever that may be. I fondly, now of course, you and I are referencing things back to when we worked together, a decade plus ago, right? It's been that long now.
Yeah.
But I think about Sandy, right? Now, I worked at times close with Sandy. I wouldn't say mentor in that, he specifically, took me under his arm or wing and did X, Y, and Z. But I can say that I knew he consciously made decisions about where I was positioned and what I was doing to get me the job rounding necessary to allow me the opportunity to be successful. And I appreciate that, right? And so that then informs me moving forward on how I want to be available to folks that I work with, right? Or that work for me. And so, the other thing that means something to me is even today, if I were to send any of those individuals and many others like you, if I send them a text or an email, hey, I need something or I have a question, they respond immediately. They don't have to, but they do, right? You do. I think I sent you one of those emails or texts on Monday, and we're already, you've already helped me. And so to me, those are individuals that are also mentors, because what I have learned from them, whether it's how they work or how they treat others or how accountable they are or their leadership philosophy, I've taken some of that, right? And I've learned from that and I utilize that. And I hope that I always am open to doing that, because boy, I certainly have a whole lot left to learn, right?
As we all do, and I'll really quickly tag on a couple of people that you mentioned, Sandy. I learned how business worked, and I learned that as good as today is, tomorrow could be even better, and that's why you were always pushed. And I learned a lot. I mean, because I was a kid. I literally was a kid in college, and they're like, "You want to do this?" Yeah. I worked for Wallace.
Oh, yeah.
Love the man. And then I worked for Bettis. I worked for two of the best people in the industry that you could work for. Hard? Oh my God, yeah. Great? Absolutely. And learning. And then you mentioned KG. And in the latter stages of my career, I worked pretty much directly for her, indirectly, but directly.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of did two things. She goes, "Listen, I'm not getting in your facility business. Here's the drill. Here's how much money you get. At the end of the year, hit the number and get everything taken care of. And if you are in trouble, come and see me. Other than that, I'm out of your way. Go do it." And she knew exactly that's what I wanted. Give it to me and let me go do it. And then Richard, one time in a conversation with her, we talked, and she said, "Your best skill," and I knew she had to think a while to figure out if I had any good skills, but she said, your best skill is you will look me in the eye and tell me I'm wrong. And a lot of people won't do that. And she said, "You will look me in the eye and you'll tell me I'm wrong." And I might say, "Okay." And we talk about it. And she said, "I might come back to you and go, maybe, but this is how we're going to do it. And when you walk out of my office, you're going to go do that plan for me, irregardless of what you really think, And I thought that was a great compliment. for that. One, you're going to tell me. Two, if I don't agree and I still go down that same road, you'll march down that road with me and make it as good as we can. I think those she was awesome to work with. Learned an absolute ton from both of them, and that's really good. And appreciate. I was going to say to you, so I was on someone's podcast not long ago, and they said, Danny, what means a lot to you? And I said, the fact that I can haven't worked with someone for over a dozen years. And whether that's you, that's Bart Frick, that's Pat Peterson, that's Lynn Will, whoever is called, someone calls and asks for my help or asks for my opinion. And I do my very best to give it to them. And what I'm most proud of is they called me. There's a boatload of people out there that they could have called, and they chose me. One, because I think they know I will try to help in any way I can. And two, they trust. And that's the most valuable thing. That is a dozen, like you and I haven't worked together at the same place in over a dozen years, probably longer. But we together worked on something this week that hopefully helps. That's what it's about. Those people, that you can call, you can ask, you can talk long after you're working side by side. So.
Along those lines, right? Along the lines of mentors, and I've been lucky enough to have a lot. Some of the other really great advice I got that I probably didn't put into practice until maybe the last 5 or so years is, internally you may have mentors, and those are important, right? But as a leader, it's also important to have mentors or individuals you trust outside of your current work environment or current company. And the individual who gave me the advice said, listen, you need a cabinet, right? Think of yourself, the president has a cabinet, and those individuals should sit outside of your current network, that when you ask for advice, there's no bias to their opinion except for wanting to help you or see you be as successful as you can. And that's where sometimes you get the best advice that informs your decision on how you may want to move forward, right? Now, I got to be accountable to whatever that decision is to move forward on. But getting that perspective, and I think for any leaders, leading departments or, leading teams, to have individuals out there that they can call that have zero dog in the hunt, right? And the only hunt they've got is, how can I help you be successful? I want to give you good advice, and they'll just give it to you straight. And sometimes that hurts, right? So you got to be open to hearing it, right?
But it's coming from mutual respect and trying to make it better, and that's
absolutely
that's how you have to take it. I've heard it called imaginary board of directors. I've heard it called circle of trust. I've heard, pick whatever you want, but it's those folks that you go to that is going to give it to you straight and try to help do whatever they can. Sure. The last question: what's the future look like for Wagamama?
Growth, baby. Listen, we've got the entirety of the U.S. to pull from. What a great white space for what is a very successful global company. Close to 200 restaurants around the world, with the opportunity now, which has always been the investment thesis or case, to really grow and have success in the U.S. So for us, I am back doing real estate site tour trips, several times a month. I spent all week last week doing it. We're looking to put a few restaurants in the ground, hopefully next year, and then ramp that up 2, 3, 4 times with some success moving forward. And with the support and the leadership we have behind us, if we just do what we're supposed to do here, with the current business we have, the opportunity is endless. So very exciting times.
Right. Richard, thanks so much for taking the time. I know you're really busy, got a lot going on, but I appreciate the time and kind of speaking a little bit about the company, catching up, and things that are important to you. And I think for our audience, which is made up of a lot of vendors, a lot of facility people, a lot of people in the restaurant industry, really good information there that they can listen to. So I encourage you to listen to the podcast, listen to the things that Richard's talked about. I think it's going to be very beneficial no matter what role you play in the hospitality sector. So thank you very much, Richard. Appreciate the time.
Yes, you owe me a round of golf now.
You owe me way more than that.
I know. That's actually probably more true. Yes. That's more true.